a lot of wildlife. Around the show, I'll see it a couple months, but as it turns out, moved out there, started going ham. So all I really did was add 22 miles a day.
Alright, so. So basically, we're just going to look at what's going to be like what do you shoot on them? Alright, so here.
Okay.
I actually locking on, but that being said, I'll let the sensor left over.
Okay.
We'll get an average about it. Do they
70
what do we have? Two tacos?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Well, it's not like I can't hold steady. Because I can't hold everything.
Yeah. Might
Are you guys
take
ready to
that
go?
all
So,
out. Are you good with one of these?
Oh yeah, one's a
Okay,
yes.
good. So yeah, let's take that
So you want to
off.
bring them up first?
What's that? Yeah, let's do that. So we'll start with that. Alright, and alright, so we've got about 5 minutes or so we're live. When we go live, I'll show you what to do. You just sit literally, control Q. And then all you have to do while I'm up there is switch between moves.
That's tonight show that I'm now.
and it's good to be retired.
I go up and
Retirement.
No.
and you don't need, because you can set it.
I had almost 40 years of marriage.
Hey, Chris, do you have any, where's someone else?
We're just going to do a quick audio check.
Should be okay.
A lot of friends, 3 stories tall.
Good there. The other one missing here, but we still need the audio cable.
I started using the YouTube camera the last few years. I was estimating. Instead of trying to make all these hand sketches that I was doing, I started using the camera. And then when I retired, a friend got me.
We can use that as an engine.
Off island. I've always been looking at wildlife.
Yeah, some sunset. Great.
You can use it there. Let's do it.
Pumping around.
Do that.
Yeah,
I
no.
learned a fellow by the name of John Hank.
I mean, it's
Stuff on the weather. Yeah, he looks
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
So there's a lot of time here. So a lot of wildlife for you around there.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
It's fun.
My favorite spots, mine is in the.
I like an area.
So where are you?
You know where Marge's is?
Yes.
I'm 4 houses from Marge's.
Drive a black man.
I do.
I saw you getting in your van today.
I was, and now I'm with friends. Now I go home and I have my convertible. How did you get
I was up there, I just took a ride up. I was coming from the marina Friday night. Okay, I'm just going to take a ride up to the end of the bay.
Yeah.
And I pulled in, and it was kind of busy, there were a lot of boats and stuff. Then I pulled into the parking lot, I just parked the boat. And usually I look down the side there. Into the cold, she was hanging out in there. And as I was pulling out, I think you were getting into your van.
Probably I was it about, so I do a lot of like this morning? Simple stuff.
Yeah, it was like late morning.
Yes, I was putting my 3 kids, going to get my van cleaned
I
out,
want to say
going to
it's a
get my
key.
food, kids, right, so yeah, very good, very good. And it's cleaner. I got my car washed.
That's a nice call.
It's amazing how this is. It's just different every day.
Since that night was
The
a,
sunsets. I actually have a morning person because of the sunrise.
I just told you, I said, hey, listen,
Except now is that
I particularly like shooting
hey, listen,
sunrises
come
off
on down.
off that pier.
Here.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what that is,
That's
the beach,
nice.
so like,
So what's
people over there, I just
shoot down there?
let them shoot.
Class. See, that-
Different as they all are with the clouds and everything after a while.
Because
It's just,
I would say request all the crap they give you.
I got good birds in.
Okay, fair enough.
I got a stuffed bird. So in the winter, I'm not
The
going
songs that they
to
make,
I agree.
winter that didn't end.
Well, all those diving guys, they were, a lot of divers there, they were all over. Because the lake froze,
Yeah.
they froze,
Right,
everything froze. The diving guys couldn't get to their food, and also,
That, you know, when I-
even when they did, the fish weren't they actually ate it, so they were all dying.
Yeah, it was rough.
Pretty devastating.
I've been in the house for almost 15 years now, and it's by far the
That is
best.
Oh, I've never seen anything like that.
I mean, not to the limit, it doesn't freeze, because it's by water, but it was frozen as far as the eye could see. It's amazing. The bay freezes.
Yeah, those ducks will go out to the lake, and when it was frozen, you know, in front of people.
And then you bring this all the way up.
They were
Right.
screwed.
Yeah, it's going out to.
I was down in a marina that had bubblers.
Wow, she married.
Oh, yeah.
I was photographing the Ganser for a guy
I
that does,
consider myself primarily. I consider
he
myself.
enters into the every year, so he doesn't do this with painting. I think there's usually 5 birds that they have every year. You pick one of those birds, and you do this painting and submit it.
To be one on a stand? Is that what you're saying?
And it's okay, put on a stamp, if you win, they pick it, yeah.
So that's why I'm.
You're an instant millionaire.
I would say
Because
so.
right off the bat, the actual painting itself goes for one.
Not yet. So we have Alina and
Then they could be packages together to sell them people that collect.
Do you follow you, Amanda?
not yet. I'm gonna start with Chuck and then I'll bring you up.
And I never.
All right, are we ready?
All
right.
You
Get the countdown.
It's a big deal.
All right, that's not right.
I'm just kidding.
Is that today's right?
No. No, that would be pretty boring.
I thought maybe you run away.
You ready? Countdown. It's all you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Afternoon Cocktail. My name is Amanda Ashley. I'm your host for this afternoon. I've brought along some really inspirational and intelligent people on today's show to kind of share with you their story and their wisdom based off of their careers and their amazing careers. And I have Chuck. You guys all know Chuck.
Yeah, you like how she does it. I've got these inspirational,
And then I got Chuck.
encouraging, and
And then there's Chuck.
this guy, I appreciate that.
Just kidding.
Now you're with Amanda.
That's not what I meant. All right. But we have a great show. So I have Alina Alderman. She's an entrepreneur portion. She's owner of Rochester's, co-owner of Rochester's Record Archive, which is one of my favorite stores in the whole entire world.
That's a lot of fun. 'Cause that's like, you know, part of Rochester's history.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So Elena's here. We have Stephen Lindsay as our fine artist. He's a photographer. We're going to talk about his work. And then I have Chris Wilson, who is amazing, which if you don't know him, you will hear his angelic voice a little bit later. So today's theme, this is our episode 7.
Episode 7.
Little crazy. It's crazy.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we got through 7 episodes after today. Today's theme is confidence. And I thought of this because I said to Alina earlier, you know, I think for, you know, every person that's on the show today, confidence is something that at some point we all have to have in order to kind of put us on the mark to where the path that we're going, you know, leaning towards. So I actually thought of this because I was talking to a bass player and about confidence and how somebody told me that I thought it was funny because I don't think of myself as a terribly confident person. You know, sometimes I feel more confident in certain areas than others.
Sure.
But I would never self-proclaim myself as being very confident. But somebody said, you know, you look so confident on stage, like when you're performing, and I just thought that was interesting because I think confidence sometimes could be, you know, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Do you agree? Like the way people perceive.
It definitely, confidence is something you can perceive, but I don't think it's only in the eye of the beholder. I think it is actually something internal.
Yeah.
And it's actually an interesting time to talk about this. I was having a conversation with somebody who would be a leader, and we're trying to compare notes, if you will. And I think what we find is that, you know, we all take confidence, as you were saying, in something that we know. And in the conversation he and I were having, he's very academic in his approach. He's very aware of his knowledge. And we got to a point where I'm like, well, I'm pretty confident in what I'm talking about because I've experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never gone through like college, and we were literally on the topic of leadership. So it was really interesting to get to a point where we're both confident in what it was we were saying. And it was almost like we were saying, well, it should be this way. And I was like, well, it absolutely is, but experience teaches this. And at which point, and I started thinking, okay, at what point does confidence become arrogance?
That's what I was going to bring up.
I was trying to set that segue up for you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, you should have told me
Great
that.
minds think alike.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Good
That's
stuff.
cool. Yeah, that's exactly what my question was, because it's like, to what degree is like confidence accepted as not being arrogant?
I think it is. I think that confidence is really accepted for its truest nature when it's accompanied by humility. It's when you're willing to sit there and acknowledge what it is you don't know, acknowledge that you can make mistakes, but then stand pretty firm on, you know, here's what I do know. And I'm going to stand pretty firm on this because I can back it up with experience, with knowledge, with practical application, and I'll stand pretty firm on that. And I think it's times like that that confidence is appreciated. But when you're confident, you know, when you just come out and you have an opinion, and you really don't have much to back it up, well, maybe that's not really confidence, that's a little bit of arrogance. And if you're not really willing to look underneath it, the underlying structure, what's girding up that opinion of yours, if you're afraid to really look at what's behind the scenes, that's probably starting to get to that veneer of arrogance, I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think what you said about experience is really, I think experience has a lot to do with everything. Because I think to myself, like the evolution, like my friend and I were talking about this, and he's the one that kind of like put the light bulb in my head about this, because I was like, you know, I think about how much I've developed in the past, you know, decade and a half. You know, as a person, as a human being, like how much I've learned in my 20s, and as I've grown, you know, growing up, you know, the experiences that I've taken under my wing in multiple areas and levels, you know, like I think that's like really shaped who I am. And I think about when I was in high school, like the things that would get me depressed, or like, you know, like how, you know, everybody's a dramatic teen at some point, but, you know, like I think about, you know, like the things that used to, you know, bother me, or that I couldn't like overstate, you know, and now like I look back and I feel like I'm a completely different person, to some degree. Mm-hmm. I still feel like my core self is there, but I've, you know, like the things that used to like hurt me or bother me, like don't bother me anymore.
So do you think that you're most confident when you come back to your core self and you found that that core self is true?
Yes.
Oh, there we have it. That was today's show. All right. Thank you for joining us. And today we've got yes.
No, you're totally think it is. I think the difference between me being 16 and me now being 29. Like I look at it as, I think when I was 16, I've always kind of known the type of person I was. Mm-hmm. I was always a floater, you know, like I was friends with everybody, and I think when you're in high school, you know, there's, you're judged for a lot more, you know, like people have their cliques and all this stuff, and, you know, I graduated in Long Island with like 1,100 kids. So I had a huge high school, you know, and there were all these little cliques, but I just was friends with everybody, and I still am like that. Yep. And I never wanted to be judged for being that way, because I was just like, well, why would I not talk to this person? They're nice to me, you know, like, you know, I was into the arts, but I had friends that were into sports, and, you know, like, I had friends that were very, very intelligent, and I had friends that were just, you know, like average, whatever, you know.
So you were most comfortable in relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see that in your career now. Mm-hmm. You do a wonderful job in relationship, and that's exactly what you do. You bring people together, and you help people cross the boundaries that maybe they would not have otherwise crossed, and that's what you're saying.
Well, I guess like when I think about it, like when I was younger, I I feel confident enough to just be like, ah, well, heck with you guys, like, this is who I am and whatever. You know, now that I'm older, I just really don't care, you know, like, I think that's part of it, but I don't fear being judged anymore because I just...
You know, it's interesting, when you say you don't care, one of the things that I think, when I think of the word confidence, and I think each of us has a gift, I believe that. I think there is, we may have multiple gifts, but I think each person has a gift. And it's how we use that gift that determines whether we should be confident or not. What's the purpose behind our use? What's the motive, the way that we're using that gift? And when we start to actually understand what our gift is, understand how we can use it for the common good, I think that we start finding the confidence in, wait, this thing is within me, and I can use it for good. And all of a sudden we're taking this good within us, and we're using it for good, and we're creating that confidence. So when I hear about, like, you know, to me, I think one of your gifts is relationship. I don't know what that means. I don't necessarily know. But I think that that's a strength thing. I have no idea where I was going with that. So I'm just going to I'm going to stop this tangent now. How's that sound?
Well, I think for me, it's like what defines acceptance. You know, at one point, I was looking to get the acceptance of my peers. And now I find that I've accepted myself. And that's the difference between me and the now, and me in the then, you know, in the past. Like I think once you come to terms and you're comfortable with yourself, you know, everything, it's not that you don't care, but you just reach that, I don't know.
The whole word acceptance always gets to me for a few different reasons. When I think of confidence, I think that for it to be real, for it to be true, it has to be based in some sort of integrity, right? And integrity doesn't have acceptance, it has tolerance. Because for something to have structure, it can only tolerate so much. Like when Mike was here, we talked about that, you know, you're building a bridge. You build it to tolerate 6,000 pounds. It cannot accept 8,000 pounds, right? So it's like once you begin to accept something which is not acceptable, it undermines the piece of it. So I get that. I get what you're saying. And whenever I hear that acceptance term, it always gets me. Because my gosh, wait, am I accepting something because I'm being forced to accept it as true, or is it truly a part of who I am? I lost you. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
I'm processing. I'm just processing. Well, you know, this week I'm teaching at Girls Rock.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
fantastic.
like,
And you didn't I kept telling my daughter she's going to be there.
sorry, but it's amazing. Okay, are you done doing that?
I'm done probably.
But it's this week, and I've been teaching there
That's
all
amazing.
week, and it's like so fun. And my vocal class, there's 9 girls, and they're, you know, I think their ages between like 9 and maybe 15. And they're, one of the things that I teach them, and the thing that I struggle with the most as a vocalist myself, is confidence. Build in that confidence to, you know, step in front of a crowd. Like, I used to be petrified to be like in front of an audience. I used to like have piano recitals and my hands would be like this before I'd even like.
And you're like, I'm glad there's a piano so I can get behind it.
Oh yeah. And if I messed up, my world just crumbled and burned, and you know, my arms are flailing. You know, but I think you know, now like it's my experience having, you know, leading up to this point, and you know, putting myself in scenarios where I'm constantly in front of people, and you know, I think now I feel confident enough that I believe in my ability. That I believe that my ability is strong enough for me to get in front and to kind of, you know, be comfortable on stage.
I would imagine from the little I do really know about you that this week you're shining. I think that I just have this feeling that you're in your element as you're helping these young women discover and bring their gift out. I just feel that is probably you're probably enjoying it, knowing. No?
It's like Christmas.
That's exactly what I would expect. It's like, it's got to be like Christmas for you, because I think that you really enjoy bringing the best out of people. And I can imagine this week is just wonderful for you.
Oh, it's been so awesome. Like I can begin to tell you. I'm like so sad it's over. Like tomorrow's the last day. And I was like saying to the girls, I was like, I wish I could do this. Like, I wish it was longer. I wish it was maybe like at least 2 weeks now. Because it's like, you start to get to know these kids. Like this little girl like made me this like awesome. I talked to him yesterday about what's a good diva and what's a bad diva.
Oh, I like this. A good diva and a bad diva. Okay, all right.
Like what's it mean to be overconfident? What's it mean to be confident, in a positive way? And I'm obsessed with Beyonce and like the divas naturally because they're just fun. They sparkle. So I was, giving them like Beyonce as an example of somebody who works like very hard and she commands a stage. Like when she's on stage, she has a presence, and that's what makes her a diva. Not in the sense where she's ordering people around or making the people beneath her feel any less.
She's worked for it. She's practiced for it. She's put in the effort. She's put in the time. She's invested into it, and she knows it. She owns it. And that's why when she stands on stage, that confidence just takes over the arena.
Oh yeah.
And then that's a great example.
Oh yeah. So I put like all these like index cards with sayings on it. So like for an example, like the bad diva was like, I'm the best singer in the world and everybody else stinks. So that's a bad diva. So they take that card and they put it on the wall. And then we talked about everything and. But the biggest thing was, confidence, and that was the first question I asked them. I was like, what's something that you guys want to take from your experience this week? Like, what do you want to work on? What do you want to be stronger at? And they all said, basically, like, stage presence and confidence.
Was there any of them whose answer kind of just really touched you?
I mean, it was kind of all the same. It was a similar answer.
Okay.
I mean, it all kind of touches me in a way.
I was just wondering, because every now and then there's that one that stands out, right, that says something, and you're like, I just had the opportunity, little tangent, I had the opportunity the other day to be at the Puerto Rican festival, and I just had these 2 young girls come over and just start talking to me. And it's like, for all the work that you get to do, it's just fun when every now and then somebody, the unusual, the most simplistic things are what make their day, and it's just kind of fun. They just sat there and talked with me, and I was just wondering if there's something that was enjoyable for them.
Well, I mean, I asked them, what does music mean to you? Like, what's something positive, and what's something you want to work on? It was a 2-part question. So the majority of the answers for something to work on was, just becoming more confident enough to, perform and not be nervous. And then, they had some touching answers for what music meant to them. And just like how it, one girl was like, I feel like it brings out like the best in me, like in a roundabout way for like a 9-year-old. So like, she was just like, music means everything to me, and I'm like looking at a 9-year-old, and here I am 20 years older than her, and I feel the same exact way. And that hasn't changed from when I was 9 years old.
9 plus 20. You just gave me an age away.
I know.
Is that okay?
I'm not ashamed.
Okay. And if you go to her Facebook profile, the link is listed too. So good stuff, though. I think that and I'm really glad that you're out there doing that with those children, because we need all of the children need confidence, and it can't just come from one place. We need to be encouraging, and our society needs so much more encouragement, so that people can find that good that is within them and go forward in confidence. Because if we can't find confidence, we're just, every time we come up against an obstacle, we're going to back away. If and we're never going to get anywhere in life if every time an obstacle arises, we sit there and go, you know what, let's just stop here. No, we need to be looking at that obstacle and go, I don't even see it.
Yeah.
I'm going straight through you. So it's encouraging that you're out there doing that with the young
I think that's the main thing. It's like if you mess up in a song, you got to keep going. There should never be a point where you feel like things happen, life happens, and sometimes I think it looks like you have to take 10 steps back, before you could get ahead again. And I know I felt like that so many times where it's like, I could never get ahead, but in reality, if you just keep thinking like that, you're not going to get ahead. Like, just kind of gotta, take things with a grain of salt and keep going forward.
Life is a dance. 2 steps forward, right? 1 step back, and we're going forward. So.
Isn't it like Paula Abdul's song?
I don't know. I was thinking like that's some country song. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. Yeah, that's my second. All right, follow the skeleton. All right.
So, you guys, that was Chuck.
What?
Chuck.
Yeah, that's me.
Chuck Udicci. This was, yeah, thank you so
Start,
much.
absolutely, and
Always a
help
great
out.
start. I have Elena Alderman coming. She
All right.
is co-owner of Record Archive.
You guys are going to be enjoying an afternoon cocktail, right?
Yes.
All right.
Do you want to be
I'll
our
do-
bellboy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
So we got Elena coming up, and okay, so Record Archive is one of my favorite stores in Rochester. It's Elena, did you look? Yeah, please. It's one of the coolest record stores I've ever been to. It actually reminds me of modern day Empire Records.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you for having me. This is great.
So tell us a little bit about, I want to know a little bit about your upbringing, because I feel like that has to have had a huge influence on, I mean, your career path.
Absolutely. Actually, as I was standing here listening to you and Chuck discuss confidence, it has to start from home. And my parents really instilled a tremendous confidence in me. They were always encouraging, always recommending, try something new, travel, go do this, do that. So I really feel like they gave me the strong foundation to be confident in the person I am. And with that comes a lot of experience. So listening to the 9-year-olds, 29-year-olds, and
Yeah.
I'm 49. So we've got our 20, 20, 20. So I think, yeah, every decade you learn
Something new.
Sure, and it's about self-discovery, self-awareness, and it's not so much you don't care what people think, but you trust more in yourself.
Yeah, that's
And you
very
value
good. Yeah.
yourself, that you can do this. And I think that rising to any challenge or obstacle, as Chuck referred to it, you have to do that. You have to. 4 years ago, I was starting to run with a bunch of girlfriends, and I'm not a runner. I still don't consider myself a runner, but I did a half marathon, and that was just because that's what we were doing. So
Sure.
I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can do this, but I did it, and I ran it, and I couldn't believe it. I never set out to do that intentionally, but it was just kind of one of those things that just happened and evolved, and I was stronger for it.
And I'm sure that brought something out of me that you didn't think, you know?
Right.
Sometimes, yeah. That's cool. Now, did your parents listen to a lot of records growing up, or
Well,
how'd you get?
my relationship into Record Archive, how that all happened. Actually, my sister was the bookkeeper at Record Archive
Okay.
back in the mid-'80s. And I was going to college, and actually I was working for Wegmans at the time. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, and she said, oh, Elena, I think I'm going to start my own tax and accounting business. Why don't you take my job at Record Archive? And I loved music, but I was into dance music and the club stuff and clubbing singles and listening to that kind of fun stuff. So I actually never even interviewed at Record Archive. I just showed up one day, and the way I describe it, and you're a little young for this. Oh, wow, lovely, thank you. That's great. Cheers, thank you.
You're welcome.
As I described it as being Marilyn and the Munsters. I just showed up at this really kooky place. At the time, it was on Mount Hope Avenue, across from U of R. Great little yellow house, 3 floors of music, and just this really kooky, fascinating. I would go in, I would do my work 3 days a week, part-time, finishing school. And when I finished school, I was going to go on to FIT because I thought I wanted to do fashion and design and move to New York. And Richard said, oh, Elena, why don't you come on full-time? I said, well, if I come full-time for you, you need someone to run your business. I mean, it was like this really wacky, kind of disjointed place. There was people coming and going and unaccounted for. Because my mind was in business, and the rest is history. I mean, here it is almost 30 years later, and I'm still there.
That's crazy.
It's totally crazy. If anyone had told me 30 years ago I'd still be doing this, I would have laughed in the face. But it's been a fun, wild, exciting ride, and I'm just as passionate about it today as I was 30 years ago.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that, you
Thank
know,
you.
because I think, like, you know, business could get to people,
Oh.
you know, and I mean, there's a lot to it. And,
A lot of challenges.
oh, yeah.
And just like any small business.
Mhm.
I mean, when you think about how many independent businesses can you name that are still around after almost 40 years?
Oh,
Not many. Let alone in the music business, which we all know has had its challenges, but
Sure.
competing with digital and
I was-
streaming and free and all that.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, how has that affected things over time? Like, how did you persevere, like, from any, like, I mean, Was there a negative reaction?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure. There was some serious down years there. Richard and I kind of thought, oh, what are we gonna do here? And what we both decided is that diversification is that you have to be relevant to your community for a variety of things. And so when you come into Record Archive, you know, even if you're not a music fan, which typically you are, everyone is, and there's some way, because music is just intrinsic in everyone's life, whether they recognize it or not.
Yeah.
But so we have every media format, from records and CDs and tapes and VHS and 78s, but we have lots of movies and DVDs and VHS, and we have tons of toys and gifts and fun stuff and clothes, vintage furniture, vintage clothes, you name it. So it's really been this kind of mushrooming effect, this kind of branching out and having a lot of fun and creating this really cool, unique, funky environment that draws people back. And now we're seeing this, our traffic is greatly increased with our latest location here on East Avenue, Rockwood Street. And people are coming in from out of town and taking their friends and saying, you gotta check this place out. So,
I have to tell you, so my friends from Nashville came. I met these like 3 amazing people. I'm actually going to visit them in 2 weeks.
good, great
So,
place.
yeah, and they came to visit me here. They, one of them had never been to New York City, so they drove to Rochester first, and then we all drove down to New York together and had a great weekend. But I was trying to, show them, around Rochester, and it was actually a Thursday, so I took them to my open jam and introduced them to some great musicians. But during the day, I drove them around the city. I took them to Hedges because I wanted them.
Right, beautiful. Just the water.
I wanted them to see Lake Ontario with the best. To me, that's the best view of it. So I took them there, and then we kind of just drove around, and then I took them to Record Archive.
Oh, thank you.
Because we were all we're all very quirky, and I love the gifts you guys have there.
Thank you.
I could just walk around the store endlessly.
Good. That's my design. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I buy every single one of them.
Oh my gosh.
So everything you see there, it's because I bought it.
I was going to ask you, how do you, who handles the inventory too?
It is me. I mean, I have an incredible staff. They're wonderful. I have 16 people that work for me, and they are, each and every one of them is unique and fun in their own way. But I oversee all of the buying. I travel a lot. I serve on several different boards of directors for the music industry and the Retail Council of New York State. So there's a lot of, I get to go a lot of fun places, interesting things. But I also go to a lot of trade shows. So I get to go, I was in Las Vegas, and that's where I buy a lot of, I find new product lines to bring to the store.
I love it. I mean, it's just some of the quirkiest gift ideas ever. If I am ever stuck for an idea and I want to give something with personality, that's where I go.
Thank you. And that's it. And I wanted to make sure that there's something for everyone, that everyone can, the price point starts at, 39 or 99 cents, and then you can buy something for $300. But there's every level. I really feel that it's important to accommodate everybody. I want it to be a very inclusive, not exclusive field. So it's you've got families coming in, and you've got a husband shopping the vinyl department, and the wife's looking at the gifts, and the kids are buying the toys, or they're watching a movie in the back room. I mean, it's really all ages, all walks of life, and it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Now, with the expansion, you're doing more music there. So they actually have, this is why I say it reminds me of Empire Records, which is one of my favorite movies. Just because you have you kind of do Record Store Day, which thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for playing. You're fabulous.
We had so much fun. And that was actually my first Record Store Day experience, so it was really great.
Great. Well, we hope to have you back.
I would love to be back, but it reminded me of Rex Manning Day a little bit. And I know they do a lot of live music, so now are you doing live music on both stages?
We are. Well, that was the first day that we actually had our main stage and our smaller, kind of more acoustic stage going at the same time. It was quite a challenge, but we wanted to attempt it, and I think actually went off seamless, that all the musicians were great. There was no bleed of sound from one area of the store to the next, so I was really pleased with that. And Record Store Day, for people who may not be aware of that, it started about 7 years ago, and it's really become a celebration of what independent record stores do every single day. And we celebrate it every third Saturday in April, and this is our 7th, I think it was our 7th year. And it literally gets bigger and bigger every year. There was a guy that was camped out at midnight the night before, I got to work about 6:30, about 4 to 7 in the morning. There's probably half a dozen people already camped out waiting. We didn't open until 9 that day. By the time we opened, the line went down up in front of Lamar, all the way down Rockwood Street. It was incredible.
Can you explain it a little bit to
Sure.
the
Sure.
audience?
As far as Record Store Day?
Yeah.
Okay, so Record Store Day, I was actually on a conference call about 9 years ago with the Music Biz organization, we used to formerly called NERM. And I was on a call with a bunch of other independent retailers. It was facilitated by the head of the organization, this gentleman named Jim Donio. And at the time, independent retailers were really having a hard time. We were competing with Best Buy and Target, it's selling everything for $9.99. We were competing with Napster and streaming and all
at
free.
once.
Everything. It was just fighting all these different fronts. So we're, what can we do? What can we do? Because the purpose, the real function of independent record stores is we are the tastemakers. We're the ones that start people's careers. We're the ones who, I have the Bare Naked Ladies cassette that they brought to me to play in my store. I've seen, Suzanne Vega with 6 other people at Red Creek years ago. We're the ones who start Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam. They're based out of Seattle, Washington. They live right around the corner from a partner store of mine called Easy Street Records. And they walk in their record, they play it for Matt Vaughn and his staff before anybody else. So we're the ones who start the careers for a lot of these artists. And the people who know that, appreciate that, will always include us in whatever their marketing plans are.
Sure.
So, okay, so that being said, we had this conference call with all these retailers, and so Michael Kurt said, we need to create like an event, like a record store day. And it was totally off the cuff. Fast forward 7 years, there are over 1,300 stores. It's an international celebration now. And the real driver of this event is all of the artists create exclusive pieces that are only available in very limited quantities, only at those stores that are authorized dealers on that day. So for example, let's see, there's been so many. What usually sells out? There is a Devo piece, there's a Beatles piece, there may be something that they have taken out of the vaults that was never released, a picture disc, a limited run vinyl piece, and they'll press 2,000, 3,000 worldwide. Now you do the math, if there's 1,300 stores, you're lucky if you get a copy of it. So everybody orders on their own base, for their own benefits, but then there's some pieces that they actually have a larger run and what have you. And so if you're a Beach Boys fan and you know that there's this limited edition 10-inch that's coming out, you're going to line up because you need to get that for your collection. And it's great, and it's just fun coming together. Our Record Archives approach has been one truly a celebration. So we decided to have the live music. We have food trucks. We actually have, now with my expansion, I actually have a bar, so we have beer and wine for sale.
I was wondering if that was like a mainstay.
Well, we'll see. Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Right now, we're just testing the waters. New York State allows you 2 special use permits a year. And so we actually have it for Record Store Day in April, and I actually have it for Black Friday in November, because we're going to do another.
Smart.
Yeah. So there's actually a spin-off of Record Store Day now on Black Friday, again, with the same concept. Not the volume that's created in April, but a smaller, more curated 20, 30 lists of artists that will provide limited pieces only available at your independent record stores that day.
Very cool.
So it's great.
I love that.
It's Record Archives. Every single year, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it's shocking. It's in my 30 years there. I mean, the volume of business that we're doing now is over, I don't know, a month and a day in 1 day in 12 hours.
I'm so happy to hear that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's like
Very,
such a
very
huge
proud.
accomplishment. You
Yeah.
should be.
Thank you.
I did want to say, okay, so if you could, is there anything if you could start all over again?
Oh.
Is there, would you have changed something or?
In my career path, no. And I'll tell you why, because like I said, being in this position for almost 30 years now, I'm so fortunate that I still enjoy getting up and going to work every day. I mean, I'm blessed that I have a wonderful husband and 3 beautiful children and my 89-year-old father that lives with me, so I've got a very full plate. But I absolutely adore my job, and my business partner of 30 years, he and I are great friends, and he's been a wonderful mentor and you've been very supportive because I said, okay, this is what we're going to do now. I want to do this. I want to try this. We're going to open up this space here because I want to give people a place to hang out because they like coming to Record Archive. So we've got couches and furniture and flat screens in the bar now. So he's great. He's very encouraging, and it's been a fun ride. I don't know what's going to happen next.
So now I know you. I mean, aside from Record Archive, you have quite an impressive career. Well, resume.
Thank you.
I mean, you've done. You were a critic, also a music critic.
I used to write for a couple of papers. There was a magazine called .com magazine. And I also did some for Buffalo's version of Free Time. I used to do music reviews and CD releases and all that stuff.
Very nice. And then also Elektra. Could you tell me?
I just did a small stint of promotional work for Elektra, tour support and marketing and stuff for them. And at one point in my career, in my 20s, kind of still figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do. And I actually there was several record labels that were kind of coming after me, wanting me to work for them. And I went on a couple interviews and I got the positions and I came home and I really thought about it. My parents sit down and discussed it with my parents. My mother was like, don't be so hasty. See what happens. And I'm so thankful that I didn't do that because one, being an entrepreneur, I sign my own paycheck. I'm not beholden to any big corporation. And unfortunately, with the way the music industry has changed these last 30 years, I've lost a lot of friends who were working for labels and had very high-paid positions, and because of the technological changes, they have been eliminated. So I'm very thankful that I didn't make that change. So no regrets. No regrets.
I'm definitely happy to hear that. Do you feel like how has all your background experience doing these different, being a part of different parts of the music industry, how has that shaped you as an entrepreneur currently in the music industry still?
Yeah, it's really all of that. I used to manage bands, so it's being involved. Working in a record store, ironically, is really an incredible kind of nuclear place to start because you have so much interaction. You know all the different record labels, you know distribution, you get to meet artists and bands. There's a lot of marketing and promotion. So it really is a great way if you're interested in pursuing the music industry. That's a great place to start because you are exposed. There's over 30,000 plus new releases a year. It's that's probably an antiquated number at this point, but it's physically impossible to be able to absorb all of that music that's out there. So but yet working in a record store, you're exposed to it, and especially everyone I hire, I train them to take my job. I'll tell you anything you want to know about Record Archive. I'll teach you anything you need to know because that just means I'm going to be on to something else.
Sure.
And I feel that knowledge is power, and I want to empower my staff. And I've got a great staff who is really very helpful. I'll put them up against any other record store or retailer for that matter.
I love that. I think you have to empower was one of our themes, and I think that's especially as an entrepreneur, anybody who you're working with, I think you equally have to empower each other to some degree. It's nice to hear that as a boss you do that for your employers because I think that's so key.
Well, I think and the key to that too is finding out everyone's motivated by different things. It's not some it's simple recognition, some it's compensation or how big their paycheck is. You have to figure out because you have to treat each one on a case-by-case basis. There's no cookie cutter, one size fits all. At least in my world, in the corporate world, that's a little different because you expect to fit into this, kind of rule and regimen. But in the independent world, in any small business, I would think even restaurant business and other small, you have to really find out what it is to make it tick. And you really want to have a great, passionate staff so they take ownership of their job and what they're doing, therefore take ownership of the business. Because they're the face, they're the ones who are meeting customers. And so, you want to make sure that you've got somebody that's happy out there and makes people feel welcome and say, oh, I'm so glad I came to Record Archive today, I had a great time. And it's like, I want to come hang out or I want to talk or listen or what are you playing or whatever. So it's really kind of it's more than just a record store.
Sure. And that's what I love about your place too, because it's just all around entertaining to me.
That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, it always is.
You're not going to the dentist, you're going to listen to some music or have fun.
Oh yeah. Well, last show, we had Michael Nichols, who used to work on the show with Chuck. And he actually just left, he moved back to Detroit. and so we gave him a little bit of a hard time, and we threatened him with the chicken head
Oh, did you?
that I bought
Oh,
on a record store day. I had this that's where I got these animal heads, you know, in case you were wondering.
I should have brought a mask. I brought other silly little fun
Oh
stuff.
my god. Oh yeah, I want to tell you.
Sure you can. It's just a little
You're so nice.
present for you for inviting me to your show, and
You're so
thank you for
sweet.
including me. And
I love, I wanted to wait because you guys just have the best stuff.
thanks. This is our brand new. I'll hold that. This is our brand new image that my partner's wife, Lucinda Storms, created. I'm thinking kind of an homage to Batman's 75th anniversary. So
I love it.
and we just literally got those last night. So that's this kind of a fun little archivey, subtle record archive T-shirt.
I love
Some are
it.
not so subtle.
I have an archive shirt.
Which one do you have?
It's old. It
Is
has
that-
the record on it. It's
Oh,
pink, and
sure.
it's kind of like this.
Great.
But the
You're
first
gonna love
one-
this. This is the girls' tea. That's great.
comfortable.
That's really wonderful. And then you have to have fun. Just little cocktails. I thought we were doing cocktails here.
Just pour that
And
in.
some fun jewelry, a little bracelet
I
for
love
you. And
Elena, I feel so spoiled.
then a record archive coffee mug for your favorite
Okay.
coffee or tea. Let's see. Oh, and then there's a little gift card for you. You
Oh,
can come back and do
thank
some
you.
shopping and pick out some music for yourself. Here's just a couple of events we have coming up. We've got,
Okay.
if you're a wrestling fan.
I am actually.
Are you a wrestling fan?
I like
Do you know Chris Jericho?
yeah.
Okay, well, he's got a rock band called Fozzy. We just came out with a new record, and they're going to be coming to do an in-store record archive, and not till October. It's got plenty of
That's
time.
amazing.
And then Clary Brown and Bangin' Rockettes is coming August 18th, and all these are free shows. Just come. I'm actually anxious to see her. I don't know a lot about her music, but she's kind of like in between Amy Winehouse and the Alabama Shakes.
Oh wow.
So very excited about
That
her.
sounds promising.
So that's a little PR stuff for that. And then here you got to get your little drinking glasses on, your straws, you know. So people come just to buy their stocking stuffers, and that's totally fine. And then
I didn't tell
there
you.
you go. Thank
Oh
God. I'm
my
fabulous because you're fabulous.
Well, I appreciate
I'm like, what
that.
can I get her? Because she's so blingy,
You're so
fun.
funny.
And that's really it. This little record archive
I
series
love
in our
it.
brochure of all the stuff, the onion of record archive, all the different things that we do there. So.
No, Record Archive, where did it start? It didn't start at this location.
No, it didn't. Our original location, well, it depends. If we go back to September 14th, 1975, Richard Storms, Dick Storms, my partner, started it with another gentleman at a flea market out in Henrietta.
Really?
And then he moved to the basement of Village Green Books on Monroe Avenue for a short stint. And then he bought the building on Mount Hope Avenue. We're at 1394 Mount Hope Avenue for many, many years. And then in '94, we actually had another store on Monroe Avenue, and then we opened up, so we had two for a minute, then we closed that one, then we had another one on East Avenue, and then because of Wegmans expansion, they liked our location, the block, M&T Bank, so we loved that area off East Avenue, like we're still in the city. It was very important for us to stay committed to the city of Rochester. And so we stayed on East Avenue, and now we're at 33 and a third Rockwood Street, which is just a block
I love
south
the third part of it.
of Winton Road. So that is really, I told Richard, this is my last and final store. I love it. It's 13,000 square feet. I don't want to have two stores again. I like having everybody under one roof.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, there's so much more that I want to do there. And so we're just hitting our stride.
I'm glad you just said that because that's the question I want to end with. Where do you see like the future of Record Archive? Like, where do you want to bring this? Because obviously you have the expansion, and you know, with that, I'm sure comes a lot of other ideas.
Yes. Well, the expansion part, I guess we should probably explain a little bit clearer, is that when you come into Record Archive now, there was the main floor is 10,000 square feet of music and movies and media, if you will. And last fall, I had the opportunity to take an additional 3,000 square feet. So my amazing husband did all of the demo, did all the work. He's the one who created the 3 17-foot archways.
Oh, really?
And he gutted the whole place. And I told Richard, my partner, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to make it kind of a different feel, more of a lounge. It's painted black, it's dark, but there's furniture and more toys and gifts, and the bar, we give away coffee every day. There's Wi-Fi back there, the smaller stage. It's just kind of another evolution of Record Archive. So, and actually what it is, it's a community space. People can rent it out. I've already had, I've got a rehearsal dinner happening. I actually had a CPA firm renting out in April 15th for the end of tax season, so I had a private party back there.
That's
and so it's just kind of another way to stay, again, to be supportive and relevant for the community and give people another reason for people to come to Record Archive.
Sure. Yeah, what a great idea.
Thanks, and it's a lot of fun. So we've got our 40th year celebration starting September 12th. And we've got, kicking it off with Legends Radio is doing a big party that Friday night. I've got Todd Bradley, who's doing the High Risers. He has his own band with his brothers now called the Bradley Brothers. They're going to be playing that night.
I think I've seen them.
They're great. They're wonderful. So they're going to kick off our party.
Did they played Record Store Day, right?
They did.
Okay,
they did.
yeah, that's
they played in
right.
that's right. They played in the space.
They were great.
Yeah. And so I got
really good.
Really just really solid, great musicians, and such talent in one family.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I love that.
Amazing.
I wish I came from like a family like that.
I don't even sing in the shower. I don't have any musical inclinations at all. Well, I don't know. I have appreciation for music. That's it.
So funny. I love. I mean, I think it must be amazing to come from a family like that. I mean,
and there's more. I think there's a couple more music. But.
Really? Yeah, they were very, very good. I enjoyed them immensely.
Yeah. So we're going to continue to challenge ourselves and find new ways to give people another reason to come to Record Archive.
I think that's probably why you're so happy too, with your business, because you constantly, I think the more you challenge yourself, and the more goal-oriented you are, it kind of gives you something to work towards, and it keeps things interesting.
It does. It keeps it fun and fresh, and like I said, it's been a very crazy, wild ride. I've had a lot of amazing opportunities. I've been able, like I said, to travel. I've met some incredible musicians along the way, and it's fun. To me, the definition of success, at least in my world, is the fact that I can still get up and enjoy what I do.
Sure.
So.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for everything.
Enjoy your treats.
I will.
Thank you.
Guys, make sure you check out recordarchive.com if you're out of state, because they can order online too.
We ship every day all around the world.
I'm telling you, it's like the best stuff ever. Like just.
And when you go to Nashville, you have to go see Grimey's. There's a great record store down there.
Oh yeah?
Called Grimey's.
Okay.
Ask your friends about it, they'll take you there. Really
I would love to go there.
Yeah, it's a cool store.
Before we leave, actually, so we have Elena Signon, one of our featured cocktails today.
It's delicious.
So this one's called the Splash.
Very nice.
It's white rum, coconut rum, dark rum, and passion fruit, orange juice, and pineapple juice.
I get to really drink it now. I was kind of nursing it along. It's wonderful. So I can't remember how to make this. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Cheers.
Well, cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And could we take a little break, Chuck?
Absolutely.
We're going to take a little break. We're going to come back with Steve and Lindsay. We still have a great show ahead, so make sure you hang tight with us for a moment, and we'll be right back.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
it was so fun.
That was fun. Great.
So this gets uploaded right away to YouTube after the show.
Oh, okay, great. So I can tell people to go up.
Yeah,
and then we can.
Website.
Oh, I was going to say, I can do that and put it in my newsletter and all that.
We should do that like this at the community room.
That would be.
I would love it.
thinking-
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anytime. Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun to try to do.
Yeah, we've got a big dinosaur in there.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
We would need to, for us to do it, we pretty much need the entire day because all the setup. So if there's
So worries.
all right, some third, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Sure. Yeah,
It's
just let me know.
perfect because of what we're doing. It's
Great.
Like,
Well, this is a really interesting setup down here. I've never been here before, so it's very cool. Thank
it is
you.
cool back here.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is yeah.
So you own this then? Or
No. We run
You just run this.
all this. Yeah.
Oh, yours first.
Well, this was very fun. Thank
Yeah,
you so
me
much.
too. Thank you.
Continued success, but yeah, you're welcome anytime. You can come check out the space and we can work out all the logistics and all the stuff.
Wait, is
Basically, set aside as a home thing.
Yeah, what we do is it's actually curtained off, so we can either greatly reduce or kill them out front altogether, so there's no need there, but really we've got a lot of stuff.
And at night, our shows at night are a little more. We have Rolling Williams on. We've had like the different guys, so they're more upbeat fun kind of stuff.
Great.
But throughout the day, it's all around development kind of stuff, social entrepreneurship, and then moving into this.
Well, this is great. This is, I thank you for having me. I look forward to watching and going back and checking out some of the other stuff.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready with it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're back, and I have Stephen Lindsay sitting beside me. He is an incredible photographer. Tell him your website.
It's StephenLindsayImaging.com.
Okay, so if you're on your computer right now, you should start another tab and browse through his work because there's a lot of it, and you hit upon a lot of genres.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, is it? I mean, are you just trying to expand your portfolio as much as you can? Or?
Partially that, partially I'm still finding my voice as a
Okay.
photographer, and it's challenging to try different things, and that's what's fun.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And like Elena said, the more you challenge yourself, I think it keeps things more interesting and,
Absolutely.
you appreciate it a little bit more
definitely.
too. I mean, out of all, you have literally everything from really, my favorite images that stood out to me was, I think it was maybe from your latest series, it's, he has a beautiful girl, but she's holding a very large, vintage looking mirror, and she's out in the field, and she's almost transparent where she's holding it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit? Like, what was your mission statement behind that? Or did you have one?
Those are actually recreations of some pretty famous photographs.
Oh, really?
Yes, I certainly can't take credit for that idea. And it was the model I work with who brought them to my attention. And she said, "Do you think we can do something like this?"
Cool.
And I said, "I have no idea. Let's try it."
Oh, that was a good challenge.
Yeah, and we went out to Mendon Ponds Park.
Mm-hmm.
She bought the mirror off of Craigslist, which is this huge vintage mirror. It was beautiful. And we just went out there, and it was all natural light. We played with where the sun was and where we positioned her and where we positioned the mirror. And they came out really beautiful. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
it was, it was definitely challenging to.
I would imagine that was very difficult to edit. Do you do? You do all your
I do,
editing and
yeah.
stuff,
I edited all my own shots, but they weren't that bad to edit because we spent so much time before we took the shots getting them set up right. So, there's no trickery in those pictures. Everything you see was just on location, except for there's I think 2 shots where she looks like she's floating, or it looks like the mirror's floating.
That was the other one I loved too.
Those have a little bit of trickery in them.
Sure. Those are very, very, I just thought it was so creative. I really enjoyed that. So how long have you been photographing?
Seriously, for about 2 years now.
Okay.
I got into it through the marketing work that I do, and
You're a graphic designer also. Okay.
Yeah, and I worked for a small local marketing firm that, when you're creative director for a small marketing firm, that means that you do the social media, you do the photography, the videography, any type of graphics work. It's all in-house and it's all just you. And luckily I was working with my best friend who is a phenomenal photographer, and when we had to go out on location and do shoots for clients, that's when I got bitten by the photography bug. So it started there, and then I just went online and found models that were willing to shoot with a weird looking tattooed guy who had no experience, and just started growing my portfolio from there.
Very cool. Now, when you work with, I see you work a lot with models. I'm assuming that you prefer working with the figure in general, or do you do some landscape stuff too?
No, I am horrible at landscape photography. I have such an appreciation for it, and the way I see a landscape and what I can capture with my camera never connect like they do for me, where when I see a model, or if I'm just doing street photography and I see just somebody walking down the street, that I'm able to translate a lot better. So I have immense respect for landscape photographers and wildlife photographers, because it's something that just eludes me.
I think it probably has to go with saying, what moves you, or obviously you're probably a people person. If you're dealing with marketing and, your nature of business outside of photography, you're dealing with people all the time. So I'm sure that's, for you to gravitate towards figures as your subject matter, it probably makes a lot more sense because that's what you know.
Yes, and it's that interaction.
And that emotion behind it, like you understand that,
Yeah.
Whereas this lovely man in front of me, which you guys can't see, he's a good friend of mine, Aaron Winters, he photographs beautiful, beautiful, I don't know, I'll make sure you guys connect, but I mean, wildlife and landscape and, you know, two completely different worlds. Not that, I mean, I'm sure if you put yourself up to the challenge, you could do it, but that's just not how, you know, you connect as much. Now, when you choose your models, do they make the suggestions as to what they want to model for, or do you guys like combine thoughts and concepts?
It all depends on the person, and so sometimes I'll have a concept in mind, and I'll know that a certain model I've worked with or I've seen would be perfect for it, and so I'll pursue it that way. I also have models contact me and say, you know, I want to do a shoot kind of like this, or you know, whatever. And regardless, even if it's just, oh, I admire a model's work and I connect with her or him and we start talking, I always want to start that dialogue of what they're interested in, what they like to shoot.
Or what they're comfortable with.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge for me. And anybody who's worked with me will tell you that that's one of my #1 things, because I do a lot of male photography.
Sure.
And
they gotta be comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, it's never going to be like a pressured situation when you're shooting, because if the model's uncomfortable, the shots are going to be awful. And they don't have a good time, and then what's the point?
Right.
Then it's not fun for anybody. You're not creating anything that is honest, unless what you're going for is an honest look at discomfort.
Sure, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, like, what is a topic or like a genre that you haven't touched upon yet that you like foresee in your future that you want to tackle?
You know, I have not shot a lot of male models. I just know a lot more female models, and I want to get into the idea of masculinity and how society perceives masculinity and the truth behind how a male model, or even if it didn't have to be a model. I work with a lot of people who aren't quote-unquote models. In fact, those are some of my favorite subjects, because you get a lot more honesty, whereas models know how to pose and how to give you what you're looking for. Non-models don't, and you get these really amazing surprises when you're shooting with them. And so I want to find that truth behind what it is to be a man today. Because, you know, we know the stereotypes of what it was to be a man in the 50s, what it was to be a man in the 60s. And, you know, what is a modern male actually like? Because I think it's a lot more diverse of an idea than it used to be.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, I think that goes for just generations in general, you know? Like, I love time periods, you know? Like, I'm really drawn to, like, the 40s and the 50s. Like, I just am fascinated with that. Like, how people were so much more normal and respectful than they are today, you know? Like, I just look at that time period and there's such an abundance of innocence, you know, that is just so lost in our culture today. But, you know, I don't know. I just am really drawn to that. But, I mean, when you look at, like, each decade, how everything changes so much and evolves over time, you know, it's like that, the monkeys, you know, like that picture of, like, the apes going to, like, human. You know, it's like the human going to, like, Lady Gaga. Like, if you just started, like, where the human was in, like, 1920 and then how they evolved, like, by decades, I think that would be way more interesting. That could be your next photograph.
That would be cool. It would be difficult, but that would be cool.
Yeah, you have people dress up and then have them, like, evolve. But, what about, no, do you have any, like, upcoming exhibits or any, I mean, do you plan to, what ultimately do you want for yourself as a photographer? Like, where do you see your career?
I want, wow. You know, honestly, I'm not sure, because, like I said, I'm still finding my voice. But I want to be able to make my living doing photography, which is what I'm doing right now. So I do a lot of portraiture, I do a lot of, you know, family portraits, children, I do pet photography, and all of that is fun in its own right, and it's also a means to an end where it allows me to do the more artistic photography that I like to do. So if I could somehow make a living doing artistic photography, that would be fantastic.
Sure.
But, you know, it's one of those things where no matter where life takes me, I'm going to do it.
Right.
You know, I'm the type of person where I have to create in one form or another all the time. So, regardless of what else I'm doing, you know, as long as I get to keep taking pictures and working with people and connecting on that level, then I'll be happy.
Sure. What's like the weirdest request somebody's had, like as a model, like for, like maybe a suggestion for, like wanting to be photographed? Like there has to be something that you're just like, I don't know, but I guess I'll try it.
You know, those usually come from me, not from the models. Yeah. I had my friend Tom, who's a phenomenal local male model and a musician. I had him dress up in a wedding gown and took pictures of him that way.
I think I saw that. Tom to
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up because I mean, what was your thought process behind that?
Him and I are both children of the 90s as far as our musical tastes go. So my ears perked up when you mentioned Pearl Jam before, because it's my favorite band.
Right.
I was like, I know that. By the way, it's not easy to follow somebody who gives you gifts, and I'm just sitting up there.
Well, I mean, she just spoiled me.
Clearly.
I just got really spoiled. I'm actually very excited about my gifts. Thank you.
So
Not expected, guys. Not expected. Not a requirement.
good, because I was like, I don't remember seeing them bring gifts. Higher portion of things. But so Tom and I are both children of the 90s, and I told him I was like, you know, I want to do something different with you because he looks like Johnny Depp. And he absolutely hates when people tell him that. So
He really does,
he's
though.
going to be really mad at me just for mentioning it now. But I'm like, if you want to look like Johnny Depp, don't dress like I'm going to have a little hair. You know, you did it to yourself. So I'm always messing with him like, Tom, I've got a great idea for a shoot, and it's always something to do with Johnny Depp, and he always gets mad at me. But I told him, I have an idea for a shoot. Do you remember the really famous picture of Kurt Cobain when he was wearing a dress? It was one of their promotional shots.
You know, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I told him I wanted him to channel that. And so we went into this dingy men's room, and he was wearing a dress, and he was smoking a cigarette, which he shouldn't have been doing in there. And, you know, just, it was like this perfect combination of, you know, idea and execution and weirdness.
Well, I think it's, I mean, I always translate weirdness to brilliance. I mean, I think, you know, the more odd something is, I always find myself very drawn to. So I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed, I looked at your art for like an hour. Because there was like so much stuff on there, and it was really interesting. I like how diverse, I don't know, I just feel like as an artist, you can never like create or experiment with enough. And I'm glad that, you know, and I know you're saying you're still trying to find your voice. I don't know if like, you'll find your voice many times as an artist, you know, and I think the more you experiment, I mean, you might fall into something a little bit harder than you would have, but for other things, but I mean, that's going to continually change over time. So I wish you luck with that.
Thank you very much.
I mean, you'll definitely find it if you, I mean, I think it seems like you're well-versed in enough areas that you could go in any direction. I'm sure you'll be successful.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, but thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure, give them your website one more time.
Okay, it's StephenLindsayImaging.com, and that's Stephen with a PH and Lindsay with an AY. Because it always gets spelled with a B and an E. So.
Well, make sure you check out his artwork, please. It's amazing. And is there any of it for sale? Or?
I don't have any prints up right now, but I plan to.
Okay.
So that's something that I hope to do soon.
Great. Well, that was Stephen Lindsay. You guys, we're going to take a brief break, and we're going to set up Chris Wilson. He is an amazing artist and has quite the amazing career to discuss. So you're in for a treat. We're going to come back with one of his songs, and we'll have an interview in between. So hang tight. Thank you so much. It was fun.
All right, so now I'm going to just up here.
You want me to just play on the
facing straight ahead?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, I'm a product of all this, you know?
I'm thinking to myself, wow. They see what I'm seeing.
Can I help you?
Nope, I think we're good.
Good. So we're going to do one of your songs, and then we will have an interview in between, and then you're going to end our show with one of your songs also.
We'll have you just bring a chair up.
Okay. Sounds good.
So you want to just kind of, you want to just kind of do a little bit of a sound check? And sing?
Just in convocation, babe, underneath the sun-drenched sky. You hold the breath of conversation. Voice knows I'm waiting out wide. Never the road is alone, never the ride just feels so wrong. Never the rain falls in the sea. Wrap your arms around me.
Good?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Good for who you are.
Alright, so you'll start on,
Yeah.
Tell us what your song is.
Alright, well this is a song that I wrote quite a long time ago. And it took on many different forms over the last few years, even at some point becoming a Latin number that I played with a Filipino band in Hong Kong. But somehow it ended up turning back into a ballad. And so I'm going to give this to you now. The song's called Wrap Your Arms Around Me.
Baby's dressed in complication. Underneath the sun-drenched sky, hold the breath of conversation, babe. Voice knows only where we're not wide. Ever the road is long, never the ride feels wrong. Never the rain falls in the sleep. Wrap your arms around me. Dancing on the edge of dreaming, babe. Swirling through your glass of wine. Time it was, you were leaving. You just believe and find. Never the road is on, waiting for a little time to give it like you take. Fate will celebrate your heart, and I will give you mine. So long, never the rain falls endlessly. Wrap your arms around me. Oh. Wrap your arms around me.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, of course. You have a voice of an angel. So I used to waitress at this place called Limoncello in town many years ago. I was waitressing, bartender, and performer. I was like everything there.
One of my favorite places.
I love it there. And I remember Massimo would go like, this guy has the voice of an angel, wait till you hear him, and he'd get all jacked every time he came. So.
He used to make me sing Hallelujah over and over again.
Yeah, I remember him.
You'd bring your friends in and say, oh, you gotta get...
Oh yeah, they love you.
I love Massimo and Fausto. They're like two of my favorite people.
Oh yeah, likewise, they're great people. So now tell me a little bit about you and your history growing up. Are you from a musical background?
Yeah, I mean, my mom was just a lovely folk singer. She doesn't sing too much these days, but she said she kind of passed the torch on to me. In fact, her quote is always, she said, once you were better than me, I decided it was time to stop. Which I think is ridiculous, but I don't think there's ever, but that's what she says. So.
Would you guys sing together growing up?
Yeah, all the time. And in fact, I think about the albums and stuff. My mom's record collection, she was a true folkie in every sense of the word. The flowers all over her guitar case, the whole thing.
Lovely.
And so I grew up with that. But it was such a beautiful way to grow up. And I grew up surrounded by folk music. So in fact, what was interesting is that when I got into high school, I went to high school in the 90s, and my musical tastes were absolutely outside the boundaries of what everybody else was listening to. Whereas you were listening to Pearl Jam, I was still listening to Simon and Garfunkel. That was the record collection that I stole from my mom very young. So.
I came to your show Sunday with my good friend Aaron, and that I was wondering who your influences were, and one of my first thoughts was he has to be a huge Simon Garfunkel.
Paul Simon was an absolute foundational influence for me, just in terms of his writing
and his range,
and and the way that he uses imagery in his songwriting is unlike any other songwriter I've ever known. Like the way that he can paint a perfect and specific picture of a moment without talking about that at all. He can paint that picture with words where he doesn't actually have to be literal. It's absolutely amazing. But I've never known another songwriter that can do it in that way. Being able to capture a moment without, he's at best at saying it without saying it. So.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think, it's funny because we were talking a bit off camera earlier before the show started, and you said to me something that kind of stuck with me when you said it, about how, I think you're an extraordinary songwriter, and I know you have many albums, right? You have a few, like 3?
Yeah, actually, well, I've got
3 or 4?
I've got actually 5.
Million?
I've done 5 or 6 albums. But some of them are very specialized. I've got a couple of Christmas albums. I've got, I've got an album of gospel music called Songs of Faith, which is a lot of the songs that I listened to, as I was growing up. Great old spirituals with songs like Amazing Grace and some of the really traditional stuff. And, so in terms of original material, I have 2 or 3 albums.
Okay. Now, what's your writing process like? When do you designate certain days, or is it just you write as it comes? Or
I'm absolutely I'm not prolific. I don't write. I know some songwriters who've just got stacks and stacks of notebooks. met songwriters who say, I've got 3,000 songs, and I'm always shocked at that, because for me, there's not a lot of quantity to what I do. I write when I'm inspired. I write when I feel like there's a good vehicle for my sound, because I've always been an entertainer or a singer first. That's just how I grew up, and I just loved, one of my true loves in this life is to interpret someone else's work in a completely different way.
Sure.
So when I feel like I have the opportunity to say something that hasn't been said, then I write that song. But for the most part, if I can, spend a lot of the time interpreting other people's work, I love doing that just as much.
So now, as a Rochester native, what was it like to experience, I mean, you have a lot of touring experience. He's toured Croatia, you said, Hong Kong, parts of Europe. I'm assuming the U.S.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time, I actually spent a lot of time, when I first got out of high school and I decided what I wanted to do, I moved to Los Angeles and started street performing in Los Angeles on the Santa Monica Promenade and the Santa Monica Pier. I did a lot of that, some of my most favorite times.
How long were you out that way?
Actually, I go out there a lot still. I lived there from '98 until 2000, then I got married. And then I moved back out in 2003, moved out there until 2006, and that's when I kind of started touring with in Asia and then moved to Hong Kong. So.
Very cool. So how long did you live in Hong Kong?
I was in Hong Kong for two years.
Amazing.
That was a very strange set of circumstances, though. I was actually, I was street performing at the time, and one of the managing directors of arguably the finest hotel in the entire world, the Intercontinental Hong Kong, invited me to come and do a short stint there, which turned into a 17-month engagement of 6 nights a week.
Wow.
So we did that, and I had a ball doing that. I never intended to do it, but it was a special time for me, and I got to see a part of the world that I didn't necessarily.
Never thought you'd ever stay.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever go back?
Actually, I just got offered another contract to go back to Hong Kong, but I've got a couple of little ones at home that I'm trying to. We're trying to kind of stick in the U.S. for right now, up and down the East Coast, because that allows me to go out on a stint and then come home when it's, so that I'm not away from the kids too much.
So you started touring when you were young?
Fairly young. I mean, yeah. I started performing professionally when I was 15.
Okay.
And through high school and things like that, and I did a television show on MTV in '98.
I was going to get to asking you about that.
Yeah.
So that was called The Cut,
Yes.
correct? Yes. Tell me about that experience. So you auditioned for it initially? Or?
Well, it was kind of a strange thing. So I moved out to Los Angeles with 2 duffel bags and my guitar, and I ended up renting the pool house. It's such a California story. I ended up renting the pool house from who was one of the chief engineers at Sony Music Studios in LA. And also a friend of mine who was a mastering engineer also worked for Sony. So I was renting the pool house. It was a very musical thing that I kind of walked into. And when I got up there, I had no reason to be there. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just sitting in that pool house drinking a beer and playing my guitar. And my sister-in-law at the time called me up and she said, there's a television show that they're casting on MTV called The Cut. And, it seems like it would work out when you send them their stuff. So I actually sent them a package, and the next day, I didn't even think mail worked that fast. But the next day, I got a phone call, and it said, if you can be to the studios in Burbank in a couple of hours, we'd love to see you.
Sure.
So I freaked out a little bit, got dressed, and went down to the studio, and I played a song for them. It was a little bit, my stuff tends to be in that folksy kind of ballady kind of place. That's my sweet spot. And so I got up and I did a song, and they're like, and so this whole group of executives from MTV are standing there, and they're just saying a lot of stuff, like they're in darkness. It's kind of actually like this right now, And I finished the song, and they were like, we absolutely love it, but we don't feel like that song, given the context of the show, is exactly right. They're like, do you have any more up-tempo material? And I was like, absolutely. They're like, well, come back and audition tomorrow. And and we'll see how that goes. So I left the studio and was thinking in my head the whole time that I had just totally lied to them because I had no up-tempo material. None. I mean, I'm the crooner, that thing. So I did. I went home. I popped a Corona. I sat by that goofy pool house that I was living in, and in 10 minutes I wrote a song. I just said, I literally just started playing the guitar fast and writing the first lyrics that came to my head, thinking, I can't lose this opportunity simply because I don't have any fast material, because it was an all-original show. It's based on American Idol, but it was all original material. You had to do original material, which is great.
Why can't more stuff be
why
like
didn't that last, right?
Drives me nuts.
So I did that, and so I drove back to the studio and I played them this song, and they're like, we love this song, you're on the show, and I ended up winning, episode after episode, and I won the Viewer's Choice on the show, and it was, the show itself only lasted one season on MTV, so...
you made an impact.
It was something very, very special, and it was like the precursor to American Idol, but sadly I wish that model had continued, because it was a great model. Now they kind of bring all the people up there and they just have to kind of jump through hoops for however many weeks until...
Well, I saw, which gives me hope that something like that might happen again. Linda Perry is doing a show.
Yeah,
did you see
I saw
that?
I did, and that's very cool.
I want to go on that show.
But, yeah. Well, so, that's my early experience in my early career there. And it's all kind of, I never had a particular pattern or a particular goal that I was seeking, at least then, and it all just kind of followed a direction very organically. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that experience, what did that mean to you? And you sitting here now and knowing everything that you've accomplished and that you're still yet to accomplish, is that part of, you could say that it's part of your humble beginning, that, maybe opened your eyes to something that... Well,
yes. Actually, I have a very great short little story from that time, because after I did the MTV show, I was offered a number of record deals. And I didn't have any management at the time. I mean, that happened. Like I said, I moved there with 2 duffel bags and the guitar. Within a matter of days, I'm in this MTV studios doing this whole thing, but I had no structure and no goal. So when all of these offers started coming in, I didn't know what to do with them at all, and I misplayed the whole thing. But one of the funny stories was, I remember I finally got a manager, and I was offered a record deal by Death Row Records.
What?
By Suge Knight.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
And so we go into those studios. I'm this guy. This is the guy that I am. I mean, it's just, I am. I couldn't be whiter, sadly. This was just, I looked completely out of place in this thing. So I go in there's this blood red, terrifying carpet in there.
And a pistol on the desk.
The secretary was sitting behind 6 inches of bulletproof glass.
Oh my God.
I'm 18. I'm walking around with my manager, not having the first clue how to absorb any of this. And so I'm sitting there, and at the time Suge Knight was in jail. So his parrot, this is totally true, his parrot had taken ownership of his office. His parrot, his 6-foot-tall parrot.
A bird.
A bird.
Okay.
And it's just screaming from inside the office while I'm having the meeting with the A&R guy.
What is he screaming now?
Just acting like, and I mean, it couldn't have been a more bizarre. It's almost like, when you have one of those really lucid dreams. It didn't seem, it was very odd and bizarre. But I remember it was, so this happens, they offered me the record deal based on that goofy song that I wrote in 10 minutes for the show. So we go through the whole process, and the reason why I tell this story, because it's material to the question you asked, which was, I got in the car, we had the meeting, we got in the car with my manager, and we're sitting in the parking garage of Death Row Records, and we're just sitting there in silence, absorbing what just took place, and he looks at me and he goes, he said, Chris, if you are halfway through this album, and you don't like the way it sounds, and you don't feel like it's representing you, he said, do you feel like you could walk back into this building and tell them that?
was like, wow, like that really hit home. He said, do you really feel comfortable like this is the environment where you, this guy, can feel at home and feel like you can be you? And I was like, no. And he started the cave. And that was the
Really?
And we didn't accept the deal. And you know, it's funny, I've had friends tell me for years, you're an idiot for not doing that. And the truth is, you know, I really don't, I've never seen it that way. And I remember my wife saying to me the same thing. She's like, whatever you do in this life, to whatever varying degrees of success, and it was like you were saying, when you have to love what you do, and you have to be able to own it and puff out your chest and say, for whatever this is and for whatever people think of it, it's me. And I'm able to do that in my life now and where my career goes. And so, you know, I've had rocket ship moments, and I've had, you know, rolling pennies moments in those years since, but it's all good.
You know, not that I didn't respect you before, but that makes me like love you. I think that's really amazing, because I think, you know, as artists, you know, you get wrapped up in the dream, and you get wrapped up in that moment where you're offered like an opportunity, you know, and even as bizarre as that is, somebody would have maybe in your situation walked away.
I had a great manager.
Yeah.
And he knew how I was feeling at that moment, which was, I mean, I was a kid in every sense of the word,
Yeah.
and I was not ready for that. And it would have been a real minefield for me discovering who I was in you know, that kind of world. It was a very cutthroat world, you know. And you know, and I went through the whole thing. Like the whole thing that led up to that was, oh, they're you know, they'd send the Hummer to pick me up and take me to the restaurant and the whole thing. And I was like, this is awesome and bizarre, and I don't belong here, but I kind of love it. And, you know, I went through that whole thing, but I always realized I was a front porch acoustic guitar guy who liked to sing to my wife and who liked to sing to people and reach them on a real intimate level. And I know that that's a crazy challenge in this world of just constant barrage of imagery and flashing everything. I thought, well, if my goal as a musician is to quiet people's spirit a little bit, then that's the role I'm going to play. I'm going to be that CD in their library.
Sure.
You know?
That CD could mean everything to somebody, though. You know? That's really, really cool. I love that you just, thank you for sharing that story. If that parent could have been screaming anything more bizarre, what would it have said to you?
Oh my God, it was terrifying. I mean, I was terrified by the whole thing, you know, only because, you know, we're raised on those images. I mean, you know, you watch the behind the music of when they was talking about how they hung Vanilla Ice out the window by his ankles to sign the contract in that room.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you know, I don't know. I didn't know if any of that was real or just hype or whatever. But
you believe it now.
It didn't. Well, even to this day, I still don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have all just been production. But to me, this little. I mean, I really could only describe myself as a small town kid who was really thrilled to be having so much attention, but not knowing at all what to do with it.
And I think the important thing is like to remember, you know, with anything in life, you know, if you settle, you're settled, you know. And I think the main thing people need to remember is that happiness is everything.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not all the money in the world. If you're not happy, you're not. I mean, life isn't going to be good, you know. So it's you kind of. I don't know. I think that's great.
I've got a great thing going. I love what I do. I love that some nights I'm playing for 500 or 1,000 people, and some nights I'm playing for 15. Because each of those, there's an intimacy level to each of those things that, again, that's kind of my sweet spot. So, you know, in fact, I always remember being on that MTV show because they wouldn't let me play my guitar, and my guitar was like, maybe it was a crutch, but it's always been like. It's kind of like my gun or something. I don't know. It's something I feel like safer with it or something. And I remember going on stage and they're like, well, you're going to have to play to a track. And I literally could not figure out what to do with my hand. I couldn't. And so you see me on this MTV show, there's tape of it up. If you go on YouTube, you can see it, of me just kind of holding my hand at the side because I really just didn't, I had to hold the microphone for the first time and I just couldn't figure out what to do.
It's hard when you have to just be a vocalist. Like,
I wasn't really ready for it.
Now, you know, today's show's theme is confidence. how has your confidence evolved over time? I mean, is there something, even now with all your success, that you find moments of weakness that you don't feel as confident, and how do you like overcome that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of strange that is the theme here, because that's really been the theme of my whole journey, in a way, was figuring out how to have, for example, when you have a high, kind of pretty voice, for a guy, that's not always the easiest road, you know? I would say more often than not, it's not. When you, and so for a long time, it was really struggling with how to, you know, carry yourself in a certain way while still, like my wife calls it, singing pretty. You know, she would, like when I leave the house and I have a gig or I have to go out and tour something, our little phrase to each other, what she says to me every time she gives me a kiss, she says, sing pretty.
I love it.
And that's kind of my thing. So to find your space as a performer and to be able to, you know, deal with promoters and managers and agents, when they see the content of what I do, it could appear soft. I mean, that's the sound of it, you know. So you still have to figure out a way to let them know that that's how I sound and that's how I sing. But and yes, I am trying to touch people on a very emotional and intimate level, but you still have to find a way to kind of, you know, own that, puff out your chest and command that space. And I think over the last few years, particularly, that space has felt very comfortable to me. You know, I always kind of equate confidence with comfort. When you can feel comfortable, then you're confident.
Totally.
You know? And that's kind of, it's all about that, even that appearance as well. So.
Okay. Now, I just have a few more questions. So you are releasing an album, and it's like a John Denver tribute.
This is a very weird little detour I've taken in my career. When I was a kid, there was this big giant rock in front of our house. We lived in the middle of nowhere, and there was this big giant rock. And I would jump up on this rock and sing to the top of my lungs for all the cars that would pass by. I was like 4 or 5 years old. And the album, again, I told you I stole my mom's record collection. So it was everything, you know, it was all the folk stuff. So it was John Denver, it was James Taylor, it was Simon and Garfunkel, it was all of this stuff. So I knew every John Denver song there was at 5 years old. I knew them all. And I would stand on this rock and sing to the one car that would pass a day. I mean, we lived in the middle of nowhere, but I would still do it undeterred and confident, which is an interesting thing. Just, here I am. And at some point, somebody suggested to me that being such a basis for where my music came out of, like that real intimate and very sincere kind of folk style, why don't you do an album that is in tribute to that, and to your root there? So I kind of just thought about it a little bit, and I realized, you know, I went in the studio and started recording a couple of things, and I realized how foundational it actually was for me, you know? I mean, for whatever you can try to put yourself out as, if I honestly had to liken myself to as a performer, I probably would choose someone like a John Denver, if only for the fact that he wrote songs that were very simple and or I shouldn't say simple, they were uncomplicated, not necessarily simple, but uncomplicated, uncluttered, very sincere. And when he would walk out on stage with his guitar, for whatever, you know, antics or whatever might have happened, that was him. And so I thought, maybe I should make a little tribute to that. So I did. So we're about 3 days away from finishing that record, and we're really excited. I'm calling the album, there's a line in one of his songs called "This Old Guitar" where he says it's a lovely place, a lovely space to be. So I called the album a lovely place to be. The songs of John Denver.
I love it. Where are you recording?
There's a great little studio in Geneseo called Ultra Huge Studios, and Sammy G, Sam Bertadoria, who's played in every awesome blues band around here for many years, is the engineer and owner and operator of that place, and it's a great creative little space, and so we made the whole record there. Yeah.
Now, tell me about your group that you were telling me about earlier.
I am absolutely blessed to have through my dear friend Jerry Falzone, who runs a fantastic singer-songwriter community. I shouldn't say runs, but really kind of facilitates the connection of just about every singer-songwriter in this area. I was able to meet a guy by the name of Bill Welch, who has been playing in Rochester for a long time with his band, Bill Welch Band. And so he and his daughter and I have just a real love for this real color. So we describe our music as folk and soul. So he kind of brings this soulful element, and I kind of bring like my more kind of tender, intimate thing to it. And it's kind of just a three-part harmony. It's acoustic guitar, dobro, and mandolin, and our three-part harmony, and that's our vibe. So we're really, after my John Denver project is finished, then we're really going to be focusing on the 3 Stories Tall project for a while.
So you're going right into another recording project?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So we're actually going to be recording, and we're going to do a very interesting thing. We're recording at CCFL with Bob Potter, who's brilliant. And we're going to try to do the album live in studio over the course of 3 full days and see what we get out of it. So that's how we're going to approach it.
So you obviously love to record because you have like 1,000 million recordings. So how does your recording projects, what does that bring out in you that, I don't know, like I always feel like when I record, like it's always nice to hear, like especially like original music, you know, like for me it's hear my songs come to life the way I hear it when I write it, that it excites me to know, to above and beyond. You know, like do you feel that way? Or like how does recording differ for you than performing live? Like I'm sure you get different gratification from both.
Yeah, in the studio, live is all about the connection. You know, for me, it's all about figuring out a way to quiet the space and really hit somebody's heart. In the studio, you can be a little bit freer for experimentation, which I love. And I love to layer things. And I love one of my true passions in this world is to record background vocals.
Me too.
I just love it. I love creating a soundscape and textures and hearing the weird and interesting things that my voice can do. If I, again, have that kind of the confidence to just, which you have in the studio, because if it isn't good, you just do it
Just
again.
catch it, yeah.
So you just kind of, let me try this goofy thing, and let me try this goofy thing. So that's the thing I love about the studio. So that's, even like this John Denver album is a really good example of that, because on one hand, I took a few of the songs and really changed them profoundly. But then on a few of the songs, I realized what I would naturally do was a very nice homage to those original recordings, from the 60s and 70s. So it's kind of a really nice mix.
Well, Chris Wilson, I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. Now, when are you performing next? Give them a little plug.
Well, right now what we're in the process of doing is we want this launch for this John Denver project to be a kind of a big deal thing. So we're looking at some of the larger venues here in town to have that. So the next concert will be in September sometime in terms of the Rochester area, and it'll be a pretty big one, and tickets will go on sale on our website.
And tell them your website.
Website is www.chriswilson.us instead of .com, because there's like 100,000 Chris Wilsons in this world, and they all play music. They all do, to varying degrees of success.
Also, I'm sure you have plenty of your music on iTunes, and is it just
Believe it or not, we don't do iTunes.
No.
And it was for a very specific reason. We do so many festivals. And, this is a very strange culture, and I'm so happy to be on with you from Record Archive, because they are a perfect, shining example of something that we're about, which is, I love making the connection with people, and I love that there are people in this world who really still love to hold something. And so we, at this particular juncture, we don't make we're all about building a fan base and connecting with the audience. So I really love selling physical product. Now what we do is we play tons of fairs and festivals, and we hustle those CDs out there. But we do quite well with it. So
Good. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Chris is going to leave us off with one more ritual. I just want to say thank you very much to all of today's guests, amazing guests. Elena Alderman of Record Archive. Make sure you go to Record Archive always because it's great, and get your gifts online or anywhere. Also, Stephen Lindsay, check out his artwork. And Chris Wilson, thank you so much. You're phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much.
What song are you going to play for us?
I'm still deciding. As I put my capo on, I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, could I make a request since you already
Thank you.
said
Please
something?
do, because I really don't.
Well, you said that one of your friends or somebody always bugs you to do Hallelujah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking like you said that.
How
and
is
that
it that I ended up on this place and someone's going to request Hallelujah?
because you mentioned it.
Could you do that song and then one of your originals?
But I think,
Alright.
but I also think you need to do a John Denver after. So could we do it that way?
Wow, so this is like a whole concert.
Yeah, is that okay?
John, you're so greedy right now.
I'm so greedy. I'm sorry. He said it. I'm figuring that must be like something special.
Well, thank you.
Well, Chris, play as much as you want.
All right.
I'm not
Okay.
Heard there was a sinkhole, did it bleed and please the Lord? You don't really care for music, do you? Goes like this, for the fifth, minor fall the major lift, baffled king and bones, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Faith is strong, but you need proof. Soccer bathing on the roof, the beauty and the moonlight pour through you. She ties you to a kitchen chair, she broke your throne, she cut your hair, from your lips she drew the hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Maybe I've been here before. I know this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew you. I've seen the flag on the marble couch. Love is not a victory march. It's cold and it's a broken hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Know that there's a God above, but I have learned from love is how to shoot at someone new, how true you. It's not about you here at night. It's not someone who's seen a light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
God, I wish I wrote that one. All right, you know what I'll do here is I will play a quick little John Denver one here, just to kind of to promote the upcoming CD. Here's a little. This is a short one that I love.
So taught me to sing a love song, taught me how to laugh and how to cry. It introduced me to some friends of mine and brightened up my day, helped me make it through some lonely nights. Oh, what a friend to have on cold hands of my night. The soul top found me my lovely lady. It opened up her eyes and used to me. Brought us close together, and I guess I broke her heart. It opened up a place for the rest of me. Oh, what a lovely place, a lovely space for me. So top, give me my life, my living, and all the things you know I love to do. 'Cause underneath the stars that shine from a sunny mountainside, most of all, to sing my songs to you. Oh, well, I love to sing my songs to you. Yes, I do, you know. I love to sing my songs to you.
Alright, so here's my last little number. This one's mine. Man sings in the street, watching crazy, crazy. Start to notice nothing in this town. Not only do they scream, take time to write it down. Concrete fingers, faster music loud. And what do they hear to? What do they see through you? Smiling a little, singing a little, riding through. Got
good for me.
That's fantastic. Wow. Great. Fantastic.
Huh? Oh, I
Did you drink?
Yeah, oh, okay. Here.
The,
It was so much.